Hello everyone and welcome to round 5 of the 2021 Formula 1 season here in France at the Paul Ricard circuit. It's a circuit that's had a slightly bumpy return to the Formula 1 calendar in recent years after a couple of not so great races. However, with the season that we've had so far with such a close field up front and in the midfield, hopefully we'll get a great Grand Prix. Plenty of opportunity to overtaking here, especially into that back straight chicane, but don't rule out any moves into the first couple of corners. It's a nice and sunny day here in Paul Ricard, quite the contrast to what we saw last time out in Canada, at least for the race start. Tyre wear is going to be a big factor in today's race, with those starting on the soft tyres committing to a two-stop. However, in the midfield, those starting on the mediums should be able to make the race work on one-stop strategy. So we could well see the leaders having to fight their way back up the order through some slightly slower cars here because of just how long the pit lane is. So I doubt we'll see a big breakaway by any of the top drivers. So maybe look for some surprises here in round 5 of the season. Here is your grid for today's Grand Prix. On the front row of the grid, it is Lewis Hamilton lining up just about on pole alongside Sergio Perez. Mercedes getting pole position just out ahead of Red Bull. Then it is Bottas and Verstappen lining up on the second row. Ricciardo and Leclerc again. McLaren versus Ferrari looking like a good battle. Gasly, Norris and Tsunoda rounding out the top 10. Then it is an all-Alpine row in 11th and 12th. Then it is Sebastian Vettel and Pato O'Ward. Then it's Alfa Romeo's Giovinazzi and Raikkonen ahead of Russell and Schwartzman. Then it is Mick Schumacher, then Nicholas Latifi. On the back row of the grid, it is Nikita Mazepin and Lance Stroll after getting a grid penalty after qualifying. That's your grid now for the 2021 French Grand Prix. We should be in for a great race here. The lights are coming on, the drivers are on the grid, and we are racing in France. Who will get the best launch out of the front couple of cars? Looking like Hamilton's got a good launch, but he's going very defensive there into turn 1. Sergio Perez on the outside of him. Sergio Perez going to go all the way around the outside of turn 1. Can he pull that one off? Looks like he's been able to win Sergio Perez to the lead of the Grand Prix. Can Lewis Hamilton fight back? No, he's having to defend here from his teammate Valtteri Bottas into turns 4 and 5. What can Valtteri Bottas do? He can get up into second place, getting ahead of his championship contending teammate there. I'm not sure what the Mercedes bosses will think of that one, but it's Sergio Perez out front here. After his win last time out, he's looking to get a second win of the season and to make it 5 out of 5 for Red Bull. Perez leads the way towards the back straight chicane, but look further back in the middle, we've got Charles Leclerc defending from Daniel Ricciardo there. Leclerc's got Ricciardo off the start, but Ricciardo's coming back at the Ferrari driver into the first chicane. Ricciardo all the way around the outside and up into 5th position here. Looking like he might have the pace to challenge these top guys. We've got battling further down the order. Esteban Ocon, wheel to wheel over Pato O'Ward. That's Sebastian Vettel in the Aston Martin there, trying to get in the mix here as it's free wide going into the high-speed right-hander here. And Vettel going all the way around that side. Can he pull that one off? Looks like Pato O'Ward's had to back out of it. They're still wheel to wheel here. And that is Esteban Ocon staying just about ahead. They're wheel to wheel. Just behind that is Antonio Giovinazzi now having a go at Pato O'Ward. That's the thing with as many straights as there are on this circuit and as many heavy braking zones, it means if you make a mistake and miss your first overtake, then you'll be under pressure from the cars behind you. Up at the front though, it is still Sergio Perez leading quite comfortably so far in this Grand Prix. He's got it's a small gap behind him, but it's a gap that he's maintaining. Meanwhile, further down the order, Sebastian Vettel now is going to have another attempt at Esteban Ocon into the chicane. Can he pull it off this time? Looks like he's managed to do it on the way into the chicane, and on the exit he's got a nice exit and is powering down the road, but now wheel to wheel for the 13th position. Pato O'Ward and Esteban Ocon going wheel to wheel again. This pack of cars really looking like they're going to have a nice scrap in this Grand Prix. Now into the one of many high-speed corners on this circuit. Pato O'Ward goes a little bit deeper than Ocon, but Ocon not able to fight back there. Further down the field we have Robert Schwartzman going wheel to wheel here with George Russell into turn 1. Schwartzman's having a struggle in his first Formula 1 season, however he is looking to try and get himself on the map finally as he goes wheel to wheel. George Russell here trying to get himself clear of the Williams driver. He goes in very deep there, forces George Russell almost off the circuit. Russell fights back and looking like he's going to hold the position. Now Schwartzman's wheel to wheel with Mick Schumacher there. You can see the Chevrolet driver not comfortable in that car, at least so far this season, but as the Chevrolet car develops throughout the season we'll see more and more out of Robert Schwartzman, because we know he is a very talented driver and it's just a matter of time. as he's going to prove that now. He's going to go wheel to wheel George Russell here into the chicane. Robert Schwartzman going to go all the way around, so deeper on the brakes, gets the move done nice and easily. Nice move there by Robert Schwartzman, making up for his poor qualifying yesterday, and he's now up into 17th position. Sergio Perez pulls into the pits now from the lead of the Grand Prix. He started on the soft compound tyres, and now it is time for his first pit stop of the day, assuming that it'll be his first of set of two. Getting followed in there by the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc into the pit box now. Sergio Perez goes onto the medium compound tyres. They should be a good race tyre here, should go much longer than the softs that clearly have only lasted 5 laps there in the hands of Sergio Perez, who is a very good tyre saver. So if he's only getting them 5 laps, you'd assume that was either a strategic call to pit early, covering off the undercut, which we have seen in effect multiple times this year, or perhaps the tyres are just really struggling at the moment. But Perez comes out behind the pack of cars. He's behind Nikita Mazepin there. He's really dropped far back, so he's got to try and clear through traffic now as Lewis Hamilton will come into the pits a lap later. Now, with the traffic that these drivers are going to have to fight with, we could see the overcut become quite a good strategy here, as Lewis Hamilton pulls his way into the pit lane. He went 1 lap longer, as also you see behind him Max Verstappen also coming in. But the Mercedes Lewis Hamilton goes onto the soft compound tyres here. Mercedes looking a bit more confident on their tyres, and are going to go soft for the first stint. Is Verstappen doing the same? Yes, he is. So Perez going a little bit off strategy here, going to the medium compound tyres, but maybe that's going to help him later on in the Grand Prix, or maybe it's just to cover off the undercut there. As these guys make their way out of the pits now, wherever they come out, you see this train of cars powering past. That is Sergio Perez there on the back of Nikita Mazepin, and he has stayed in the net race lead here. But at the moment, well, I say net race lead, I think the entire field's left the pit at least once, so these positions will be legitimate, but they shouldn't be hard ones to get, as we see Perez there charging past the Haas driver on Nikita Mazepin. Lewis Hamilton trying to follow Perez through, and successfully does so. Now we're on board with Lewis Hamilton. He's going to go for a move here on Sergio Perez. As lucky he is, as Perez on the medium tyres getting held up a little bit in the traffic. Lewis Hamilton on the soft is going to go around the outside into the chicane. Let's see, can he pull it off? Looks like he has, but now it'll be Hamilton's turn to try and pass some of the slower cars, and let's see if Lewis Hamilton can get his way up the order. Further back, we've got a free wide moment here between Ricciardo, Verstappen, and the Haas of Nikita Mazepin. Ricciardo comes out on top there. Ricciardo's in fine form today. He was running not far off the lead group earlier in the Grand Prix, and now cutting his way through the pack very nicely. As we see Valtteri Bottas pull into the pits. He's gone for the longest undercut here. Now this could work for the Mercedes driver, because we've seen Perez, he covered off from the overcut because he hadn't quite caught the traffic yet. However, those guys have now been battling the Haas cars, the Williams cars, for the last lap, whilst Bottas has been in lovely clear, yes, on worn tyres, but maybe Bottas here can make this strategy work, because he's had that lovely fresh air. As you see Fernando Alonso now taking the lead of the Grand Prix on those medium compound tyres, but Bottas making his way out of the pit lane. It's a long pit lane here, so it's a painful one when you get to the end of it. And now blending out into traffic, that is going to be ahead of Lewis Hamilton there, who is ahead of Sergio Perez. Valtteri Bottas here, the overcut has worked for him, and Bottas finds himself up into 9th position now, already putting the pressure onto Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, and Valtteri Bottas up into 8th position. This is a strong drive by the Finn, as we see Lewis Hamilton battling behind with Lance Stroll, and Hamilton also charging up the order. Of course, all these guys now with 1 pit stop left in the Grand Prix. These are legitimate positions that these drivers, I'm sure, will fight for. Nikita Mazepin's having a better race than usual, but his engine's going to fail here. It's a shame for Mazepin finally getting to race some other cars this season after spending most of it at the back. And sadly his race is going to come to a premature end here, as it looks like his engine has failed. But up at the front, it is Fernando Alonso leading the Grand Prix ahead of Sebastian Vettel. It makes you wonder what year we are watching. At the moment, Alonso is at the front of the field, and legitimately so. On those medium tyres, he only has to make 1 more pit stop, just like the leaders behind. So Alonso in a legitimate race lead here, with Sebastian Vettel in a legitimate second. But here comes Sebastian Vettel. He's going to go to the outside, into the chicane. He's going to go all the way around the outside. Can he manage it up the inside of the second part? Can he get the better exit? It looks like he might just do, but Alonso fighting back here. All we're missing here is the V8 engine noise, and we're in 2012 all over again. They're wheel to wheel through the flat-out right-hander, and Sebastian Vettel takes the lead of the Grand Prix for Aston Martin after starting out in 30th place. Sebastian Vettel to the lead of the Grand Prix, and looking very quick at the moment. Fernando Alonso now in 2nd place. He's going to pull into the pits, react to that one, try and go for the undercut on Sebastian Vettel here. Alonso pulls into the pit lane. Slow and steady through this tight pit entry. As you can see Pato O'Ward in the Chevrolet behind him, just there, also pitting. Now, have to go to the hard tyres here. Those tyres will go to the end of the race, though, so it's a good situation for Alonso to be in. Gets held up slightly, I think, maybe by the car that came past. But on the racetrack still, we've got a battle there between Charles Leclerc in that midfield scrap, now battling with Robert Schwartzman. Schwartzman defends into turn 1, he's having a strong race so far, is the Russian driver, but he's now got the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc hounding on his rear wing. Now going side by side into one of many chicanes, they go battling. Oh, it's a wing gone for Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc's lost his wing whilst battling Robert Schwartzman. They've had a bit of contact there. They've touched tyres, and debris has gone flying over the racetrack there, and Charles Leclerc, with major wing damage, is going to really take a hit, and that is the safety car leaving the pit lane. This is great news for everyone that is still out on track. Sebastian Vettel will get to pit under safety car here for hard compound tyres. Let's see what's everyone else going to do. Will the field follow him? Yes, they will. Bottas coming in as well. Everyone will have to go to hard tyres there, as you see the Mercedes mechanics bringing out the hard compound tyres for Bottas. Everyone is pitting here. This is going to be a very, very busy pit entry. Sebastian Vettel is going to get held up here. Could this cost him a position in the pit lane? He's got going once again. He's behind the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi, but Vettel is still coming out in front, as that is Robert Schwartzman, who is going to be getting a wing change here. Antonio Giovinazzi up a couple of positions as well here. Let's make their way down towards the pit exit. Sergio Perez has actually gained quite a bit of track position back that he had lost earlier in the race. Perez into 4th position there. We've got Pato O'Ward still out on the racetrack though. Of course, he and Alonso both pitted a lap earlier. Schwartzman comes in for a fresh nose. But where's the Mercedes cars? Bottas down in 8th position now. And Lewis Hamilton, he's 17th. Lewis Hamilton, championship contender, is down in 18th position now, as another car's got past him. Lewis Hamilton, what has gone wrong for Mercedes in the pit stop? A team that are very good at the double stack. Being in that first box in pit lane has really cost them big time there. And Lewis Hamilton now finds himself in 18th position. But it's not exactly like everyone else is having a great time, as his championship rivals of Perez is only in 5th, Bottas 8th, and Verstappen only in 10th. But out front, legitimately so, it is Sebastian Vettel in the lead of this race ahead of Esteban Ocon and Antonio Giovinazzi. Then it's Alonso, Perez, Ricciardo, O'Ward, Bottas, Raikkonen, and Max Verstappen rounding out the top 10 here. What a crazy first half of this race, as Sebastian Vettel now prepares to bring the field back up to racing speed through the final couple of corners. Sebastian Vettel leads this Grand Prix here ahead of Esteban Ocon. Sebastian Vettel leads them back to green here, powering out of the final corner. Good exit there by the Aston Martin driver. He showed incredible pace compared to the likes of Ocon and Alonso earlier in the race. So I could see him stretching out his lead a little bit here as the green flags do now fly. Ocon in 2nd, Giovinazzi in 3rd. No moves looking like they're coming after this restart. Looks like a very spread out restart so far down the order. But at the moment it is still Vettel leading ahead of Ocon and Giovinazzi. Max Verstappen here already on the attack, needing to get points over his rivals here, is wheel-to-wheel Kimi Raikkonen, but Raikkonen, lovely bit of defensive driving there by Kimi Raikkonen, up into 9th position, defending that position from the Red Bull of Max Verstappen, but I think it's a matter of when, not if, Max Verstappen gets past the Alfa Romeo. Now through the first sector of the lap, Verstappen's going to try Raikkonen again. He didn't make it work down the back straight. He's going to try it earlier in the lap here, and this time it's worked because Raikkonen has to avoid the sliding Pierre Gasly there, who sort of sent it up the inside to try and follow Max Verstappen through, and Gasly now is the driver attacking the back of Kimi Raikkonen for that 10th position. Further up the road, we've got Valtteri Bottas looking like he's going to try and pressure Pato O'Ward, but that doesn't look like it's coming to anything at the moment. But up front, it's Sergio Perez now who's on the move. The Red Bull's looking very racy in this late stage of the race on those hard compound tyres. It is now Perez up the inside of Fernando Alonso into the chicane. Alonso defending very well there. Alonso, a very good defender in Formula 1. I mean, he does many things very well in Formula 1, but one of them is defending. Fernando Alonso now wheel-to-wheel with Sergio Perez once again. This time he can't do anything about it. The Red Bull is just too quick. It's such a quick car, and it appears to be very racy here. Good in wheel-to-wheel battles. You see Verstappen also up a couple of positions, up into 8th position now, and Perez in 4th, but out front with a nice comfortable 3-second lead. Sebastian Vettel's roared away from the field here, up at the front. Sergio Perez now, we're on board with, he's going up to the back of Antonio Giovinazzi. Alfa Romeo yet to score points this season, but Giovinazzi in a podium position. That is until now, and Sergio Perez gets up into 3rd place and takes away the podium position from the Italian driver. Sergio Perez now is really charging through the order. Now he's wheel-to-wheel with Esteban Ocon. It's not even wheel-to-wheel. He's got the move done before turn 1. Sergio Perez now up into 2nd place with a 3-second gap. He's got 5 laps to close that gap in. Can Sergio Perez take the win away from Sebastian Vettel? He's in second now, and he is catching up to the rear of the Aston Martin. This Red Bull has been so quick when its DRS open. Down into the chicane, he's going to have the inside line. Sebastian Vettel squeezes him to the inside and forces Perez to back out there. Sebastian Vettel holding on to lead of this Grand Prix for Aston Martin. Further back, that's Antonio Giovinazzi, who's passed Esteban Ocon there for third position, and Esteban Ocon dropping down the order, losing out to Antonio Giovinazzi, who gets back into a podium position. Perez now on the back of Sebastian Vettel on the penultimate lap of the race. They're wheel to wheel going to turn one. Perez on the inside line. Can he pull off this move? Can he ruin Aston Martin and Sebastian Vettel's day? It looks like he is going to ruin their day here. Going into through sector 1 into the chicane now. There's still wheel to wheel for Sebastian Vettel, comes back at Perez there. Vettel doing all he can to try and win this Grand Prix, but Sergio Perez takes the lead on lap 26 of 27. Sergio Perez is back in the lead of the French Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel in second place. It looks at one point like he might have the win, but it's like he's too far back at this stage now. As we now begin the final lap of the race, this is Ocon under pressure now by his teammate Fernando Alonso. As Ocon picked up some damage somewhere because he just doesn't seem to have the pace at the moment, losing time to even the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi, which has not been a top car, at least even a midfield car so far this season. But they're all scrapping away in this bin pack. Alonso up into fourth, Ricciardo trying to attack Ocon for the fifth position. Ricciardo trying to salvage some points here. He looked very quickly in the LTS and he bangs his way past the Frenchman into fifth position. Ricciardo looked very quick early on here, but hasn't cut through the traffic like others have managed to. But now Ocon having to defend from the Mercedes of Valtteri Bottas here. Bottas on the back of the Alpine. Can he successfully defend as they make their way into the chicane? Bottas around the outside, that outside line working very well into the chicane because it gives you that inside line for the second apex, and that is Valtteri Bottas up into sixth place. Ocon now having to look in his mirrors at the Red Bull of Max Verstappen here, who appears to have sort of got stuck in the DRS train in 8th position. But today, once again, it is Sergio Perez's day. What a drive by the Mexican to win the French Grand Prix ahead of Sebastian Vettel. What a Grand Prix we have witnessed. I don't think anyone had that result. And in third place, it's Antonio Giovinazzi for Alfa Romeo. What a drive to get his first points and the team's first points of the season. Antonio Giovinazzi take a bow there. What a drive ahead of Fernando Alonso and Daniel Ricciardo rounding out the top 5. But Sergio Perez with a charging drive up to the win. Sebastian Vettel did all he could, but in the end that Red Bull was once again just too quick. Red Bull 5 out of 5. What a season it has been for Red Bull. This is domination we haven't seen by Red Bull since 2013. Sergio Perez gets himself his second win of the season, and now surely that will put him up into second in the Drivers' Championship and make himself the main rival of Max Verstappen, which I think, if you look back at some of the things that have happened to him this season, like that horror show in Portugal, it's amazing that Sergio Perez has managed to get back a grip of his championship, and Sergio Perez gets his second win of the season, Red Bull's fifth, and is now got himself in a position that maybe, just maybe, he can take the fight to Max Verstappen for this Drivers' Championship. Red Bull, though, looking in control at the moment, but on the podium, I think that's a very happy podium there. All three drivers, I'm sure, over the moon with that result. Maybe Vettel a little bit of disappointment not to get the win, but nonetheless, a second place finish is an outstanding result for the German driver. So here is your final classifications for the 2021 French Grand Prix here in the Alternative Apex Series. Sergio Perez gets his second win in a row and his second win of the season ahead of Sebastian Vettel and Antonio Giovinazzi. Fernando Alonso gets 4th place for Alpine as they get strong points here on their home soil, with Daniel Ricciardo in 5th, bringing home some points to McLaren. A disappointing day for Valtteri Bottas and Mercedes as they only get 6th place, whilst Hamilton doesn't even finish in the points, only getting 11th position there for Hamilton. Verstappen down in 8th place. That is not good for his championship, but it could have gone a lot worse, with Hamilton and Bottas also not scoring big points. Then it's O'Ward getting 2 more points for Chevrolet ahead of Lando Norris, who gets his worst finish of the season so far. Now let's take a look at the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen has now only got a 16-point championship lead over Sergio Perez, with Lewis Hamilton sitting 3rd in the championship, 25 points off the lead. Still in the fight, but a race win behind now. It's going to have to take something going wrong for Verstappen here, or one hell of a charge from Hamilton to take the fight to the Red Bull duo of Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, but those two very close up at the front. Further down the championship standing, you can see Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc with 11 points between them now. Charles Leclerc not having a great day for Ferrari, with neither Ferrari doing well at all here. Ricciardo in 7th in the championship. Vettel now with that second place up into 8th in the Drivers' Championship. Giovinazzi, without scoring any points yet this season until today, now 9th in the championship for Alfa Romeo, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who sits 10th, and then 11th, the Alpine of Alonso at his first points of the season, and a nice amount of points it is indeed, getting 12 points for the team there, ahead of Pato O'Ward with 11 points. Then it's Pierre Gasly on 9, a strong start to the season for both him and Pierre Gasly, and Carlos Sainz in 14th position. But just today was a day where the midfield teams had to capitalise, and while teams like Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin and Alpine all capitalised and got big points, teams like AlphaTauri, Ferrari didn't quite do the same, so they could take a big hit in the championship. Meanwhile, in the Constructors, Red Bull, now despite that being a very close Constructor Championship fight all season long, Red Bull with now 5 wins out of 5, 39-point championship lead. That is nearly a full race weekend 1-2 away from Mercedes. McLaren sitting 3rd, just on a 69 points ahead of Ferrari. They're much more comfortable in that 3rd position ahead of Ferrari now. Aston Martin have creeped their way up into 5th position with that great result there for Sebastian Vettel. AlphaTauri down to 6th, still on 22 points, a bad race for the Italian team. Alpine jump up into 7th position, with Alfa Romeo jumping up into 8th. Chevrolet, despite being quite consistent so far, with Pato O'Ward, another team that just didn't capitalise in that crazy race and dropped down the order into 9th position in the Constructor Championship. Only Williams and Haas yet to score points so far this season. So that was the 2021 French Grand Prix in the alternative Apex series. Next up we go to Austria, and if the weather forecasts are to be believed, it could well be a wet one. And we saw in Canada that mixed up things. I'm sure it'll be even crazier in Austria. So make sure to tune in next week on Monday for round 6 of the season. Of course, that is our first week of the alternative Apex series coming to a close, but we'll be back on Monday for round 6 of the season. So make sure to join us then for what could be a very entertaining race. But I'd like to take a quick moment to thank everyone who has watched this series so far. It's been a lot of fun for me to make so far, and a little bit of a hiccup, of course, in Spain. But don't worry, nothing like that will ever happen again. And I look forward to the second week of the Alternative Apex series after a very entertaining first one. Who do you think is going to come out on top in this championship fight? It's hard to bet against Max Verstappen and Red Bull, but, you know, maybe Sergio Perez can get in the mix. You'll just have to wait and see. But that's it for today and the French Grand Prix. So, until next time, goodbye.